You're watching the Executive Exchange here on Moneyweb TV, and I'm speaking to Jorge Mendes, the CEO of Cell-C. George, thanks so much for joining us. You've been hard at work driving a turnaround for 12 to 18 months. What are some of the biggest breakthroughs that you have achieved?
Yeah, thanks, Bronwyn, and thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure. There's been a number of challenges. I think if I have to highlight one or two, perhaps the biggest changes and challenges is the financial position that we found ourselves in. Clearly I had an understanding, dare I say, looking from the outside in through the window, but clearly when you arrive and find what you find, it's a little bit different. So I think our financial position was in a really terrible condition, if truth be told. And then I think the next biggest challenge is people. And that for me is really positive thing in the sense that you can build incredible teams with the right caliber of people in the right places. So we had to assemble a very strong team, a combination of new hires and the existing people. So I think those two would be probably the biggest challenges over the past while.
Perhaps you can draw a picture of what Cell-C looks like today as compared to when you first started in the hot seat.
Well, I mean, our balance sheet is fundamentally changed. So we needed to recapitalize this business once and for all. It's been a multi-year approach. So we are now strategically different and we are set up fundamentally different. So we're an asset-light organization. We don't build own base stations. We have roaming arrangements, dual market roaming arrangements with both MTN and Vodacom, who are great partners. They've built great quality networks. So we just thought at this stage of the game, when you've got a fairly saturated market, to build what could hopefully be an equally good base station next to 3 or 4 doesn't make sense. In fact, I think the market will start seeing infrastructure consolidation. So that's a big change in our asset light model. Deep partnership approach. We are 900 people. So we are much smaller than the other competitors that we have, very good competitors. So we have to approach the market through a partnership strategy as opposed to kind of building everything ourselves and having a direct model specifically with sales channels and partnerships. So that's fundamentally different. We're probably the only network that is very deliberate and intentional about our MVNO strategy. It's fundamental, it's core, and we believe through those partnerships we can reach segments that we have not otherwise been able to reach with the pure Cell-C brand alone.
You mentioned the MNO strategy. We're talking here about the heavyweight incumbents, Vodacom and MTN specifically.
Correct. So that's the partnership we have from a roaming arrangement. So we have both. From a virtualized radio access, we use both networks, both MTN and Vodacom. And effectively what you get is through this MOCN roaming arrangements, it's multi-operator carrier network is effectively what another acronym is, can you believe it, for the industry. But what you get is you kind of get the best of both worlds. So with the Cell-C SIM card, when the radio access network signal goes down to 0 for a split second, it switches to the other one. So you really have the best of the best. And that's been fundamental because we had the worst network quality by comparison just 3 years ago, and now we have the best. We have the joint most reliable network. We have best 4G video experience, and this is surveys conducted by global players, independent research firms like OpenSignal. So this is not us marking our own homework, but for less about the accolades. Actually, our customers are experiencing a very good quality, and that's a fundamental difference.
So you say that quality is right up there from a Cell-C perspective, but what about price and service? Are you also aggressively competing on those fronts?
Absolutely. I mean, we have to do the normal stuff, dare I say the bread and butter. So that means we have to show up with propositions that have got good value. And value is usually what do you get versus what do you pay. So it needs to be good pricing, and I think we stack up quite nicely. We are super customer centric, but we have a journey. We have a journey that we're on, so we're far from where I'd like to be. We've revamped 75 of our 104 shops, so we've done that quite quickly. That's a good experience now, new look, new feel, new experience. We've rebranded this organization. We changed to a new look and feel, but it's a cultural shift. It's a value shift as well. So that's changed. We have a value system called THIS, which is transparency, honesty, integrity, and simplicity. And so everything that we do, we say, does this match up to what we want? Does this meet what our customers' expectations are? We've built a new app. So our digital experience is improving all the time. So we've got a long way still to go. I'm nowhere near satisfied where we need to be from a customer experience point of view.
What are you hearing from your customers? Are they experiencing the new Cell C that you are talking about? Are they embracing the new Cell C?
They have. In fact, I've never seen this. I've been in this industry for nearly 34 odd years. I started as a call center agent, and so back in '94, you kind of get the feedback straight from the customers about all the different challenges. What I haven't seen is you have some Cell C customers that actually defend Cell C around some issues. You see this in social media and so on, which I've not seen before. There's something quite unique and special about partnering with and being an ally to the customers we serve. So we're kind of on the same side of the table as them, rather than talking to them and delivering stuff to them. We are on their side, which is a very unique, it sounds quite simplistic, but it's a very unique positioning. And so slowly the confidence is coming back, the credibility is coming back. The conversations have shifted fundamentally from, are these guys going to survive? When will they shut down? To, this is very interesting. This is really good. It's exciting. There's fun. They're making progress. So it's a different shift that's taken place.
What's to stop the incumbents from turning around and saying they don't need a middleman? They can go this alone and cut you out of the party completely.
It's a great question. I think there's two things. The first is, we need to build a moat around ourselves, and we've done that, we think, quite uniquely. So the revenue that is generated by the two incumbents is quite large. It's also the healthiest margin of business. So when you look at their own retail, consumer, prepaid, enterprise, the wholesale margin is actually a very good margin of business. And Bronwyn, I must take you back to something which is contextually very important for this piece. When Vodafone sold Verizon, they came into a lot of money. And that cash was distributed to a number of Vodafone and Vodacom markets to do what was an initiative called Project Spring. And Project Spring was to leapfrog your competitors from an infrastructure point of view. So kind of build ahead of the curve. And one would argue that perhaps 4G and 5G has done that and not really monetized well. And then there was Rob Shooter, who was at Vodafone, that became the CEO of MTN Group. And Godfrey Motso was at Vodacom, and he became the CEO of MTN South Africa. And they had this knowledge and insight and pretty much did a copy-paste. And there's a leapfrog that happened on the MTN side on building out infrastructure, which effectively took Vodacom off the number one pedestal from a network point of view for the first time ever. And MTN's held that position for the last number of years. In doing so, there's capacity that's been created in both of these network operators. So it's healthy margin, you have all this capacity, and effectively you can choose to not take the billions of revenue. That doesn't mean that another competitor will not arrive and do something fundamentally different. So we actually think this is very responsible and healthy for the industry, because we're paying billions in revenue that they can bank to the bottom line or reinvest in their own network, which I think is the right direction of how the industry is actually moving. And then the regulator wants more competition. That's why the last round of spectrum, they insisted that each network operator must have one MVNO, and that MVNO must be successful for a period of 3 years. And as I said earlier, we're very deliberate about our MVNO strategy, so we're taking that very seriously.
You've made the statement previously that Cell C must be a disruptor in the telecommunications industry. What does that look like as a disruptor in the telecommunications industry in 2026?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I suppose there's lots of views on this. I'm hoping to be more right than wrong. I think then our strategy is working, and I'm quite confident about it. So I think, there's a big drive on fintech, as an example. You've got choices on how to go about it. We could create our own sub-brands and go after some banking segments, lending, medium SMEs, unsecured lending, etc. What we've done is we've chosen to partner very deeply with our MVNO business. So our partnerships are, for example, FNB Connect, Capitec Connect, Mr. Price Mobile, dual vendor with us and Vodacom, Standard Bank Mobile, dual vendor with us and MTN, Old Mutual Bank, Shoprite Connect is with us. So we've chosen these brands, and they've chosen to partner with us so that We do what we do well from a telco perspective. And if you now integrate these combined services into a good journey, then you start winning the race. And our bet is that these entities will be able to acquire more through their current, and I say the following: you need these ingredients to ensure a higher probability of success. So these partners need to have a good customer base. They need to have physical distribution, digital distribution, and a high utility product. And the moment that you have that, then you have a higher probability of success. And these partners that I've mentioned now have that. So I think we have a much higher probability of success. So that's going to be very disruptive, we believe.
You spoke earlier about the cultural changes within the organization. You've been through so much change. One of the biggest challenges for leaders going through change and uncertainty is holding their staff tight and having them stand by you through the tough times. What has been the biggest lesson in that journey?
It's a very good point. And I mean, I've been asked, like, are we going to make a book and whatever? I'm just trying to run a business and do it very well. There's no Netflix series intended or a book to be written. I think for us, it's authenticity, communication, and the clarity of communication and the consistency of that communication. So we have kept our strategy simple. We've communicated that regularly. We've hired very good people. We are consistently talking to our people around where we are. So, for example, I have a WhatsApp group that I send a message every single Friday to the entire company. We alternate it. Sometimes it's a voice note, sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's text. We have a monthly town hall where we address all staff. But it's making sure that from all stakeholders, wherever we can communicate, our board and our shareholders that we listed, our staff, our partners, that we have regular communication around where we are, what we're doing, what we plan to do. And I think when you communicate internally what you plan to do, you kind of hold yourself accountable. So you say stuff that you then have to go and execute. So you put yourself under pressure to execute on the things you're saying. Otherwise, you will come out hypocritical in the organization. And so far, we've delivered largely on what we've said. In fact, on my first week, I started in July, the 3rd of July, 2023. I was 3 days into the role, and I did a town hall with all staff. I said, look, I just want to address everybody. Clearly, I'm new. Some of you may know me. Some of you are not. I said, are you guys excited? And they all shouted yes. And I said, about what? And they said, we don't know. So we just brought a level of optimism that there was some hope and potential yet in this organization that they believed in.
I love the fact that you started in a call center and now you are sitting in the corner office at Cell C. Do you sometimes look back on the trajectory of your own journey and have to pinch yourself?
I mean, I don't focus on that too much. Every now and then when you have a family dinner, then it kind of pops out. And I'm very blessed that I've been able to achieve probably a lot more than I ever expected. But you have to remain grounded and humble. And I think, we're on this planet for a short time. I really enjoy what I do, so it doesn't feel like work. I love having fun. I really enjoy people. So I think if I can just make a small difference every other day and give someone hope, inspiration, and this doesn't sound like it's hardcore business, but I promise you it is, because we hold ourselves to very, very high standards. If you take a sporting analogy, there's no one that's going to be having fun losing week in, week out to the competition. You actually have to put runs on the board, and you have to succeed in some way to enjoy what you're doing. No one loves coming to work every day and get beaten up and losing. So you hold yourself to high performance standards, but these are revolving doors. A job title comes and goes. In years to come, people forget about who that short Portuguese guy was, and it doesn't really matter. As long as you make a difference in the time that you hold the seat, so to speak, and you improve the situation from what you found it in. The New Zealanders, the All Blacks, always had that saying that you actually, whatever number jersey you wear, you have to improve the position from how you found it. And I'd like to think that we're doing that in terms of this organization. So, 25 years later, we've listed, we have a clean balance sheet, and we're going somewhere. I think it's a fundamentally different position.
The listed company environment, by all accounts, is a tough one, and you are always under scrutiny. Are you up for the challenge?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, it's not something I'm really passionate about, is all the additional scrutiny and administration, but I've worked in a listed environment for many, many, many years. I'm very familiar with it. It's stuff that we kind of have to do. These cycles, if I criticize it, they come quickly, so you deliver results, you prepare for results, and the next thing you're in that cycle again. So you have less and less time to actually run the business. So I think that's not a nice part of it. But in fairness, if you're taking the public's money into your organization from an investment point of view, then you owe it to them. You kind of belong to the public, and that's what comes with the territory. So we do it. Hopefully we do it well and consistently. The intention is to always be super authentic and be brutally honest about what we're doing, right? So we're not trying to manage KPIs per se. I think that will be the outcome. You need to deliver good results. But sometimes you have to make those tough decisions and say, look, we're going to invest in the following, and it's going to take a little bit longer, but it's the right thing for sustainability. So, yeah, so it's something that you need to do rather than I think you look forward to.
A number of CEOs may certainly agree with you on that point. Let's just look back at the journey, the major changes that you've seen from a balance sheet perspective, from a network perspective. Given where you are today, success certainly needs to look very different over the next 5 years. How would you paint that picture for us?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, obviously I can't give very specifics in terms of numbers. Otherwise, again, with the listed entities, you've got forward-looking stuff. I mean, clearly success has to look something like we've grown customers, we've grown in revenue, we've got a higher attachment rate and a higher utilization rate of various products and services. I think when you look at it from a customer's point of view, we've improved their lives. We've given them capabilities, services, technology, hardware, etc., that has fundamentally improved their lives at very affordable pricing, at a very convenient way. And so your net promoter scores, like customers promoting you and staff promoting you and partners, has to be very high. So you have to have a brand that talks to very strong customer advocacy, and that should convert then into utilization of your product. Whatever the market shares are and the revenue gains are will be what they are. We're very ambitious. We've come off a fairly low base. We do believe that we've got a strong appetite and ability to not remain the smallest network, and that's not anything other than the market is fairly saturated. So certainly from voice and data, what you'll start seeing is if one wins, the other one loses. I think it's becoming a zero-sum game on certain service and line items. So I really believe that we will look at that, and by result, our market cap should improve fundamentally. We intend to pay dividends already from the very first year, so hopefully the cash dividends become increasingly better over time, and that the investment community sees this, and that we become a really powerful South African brand that is loved, and that in the end the asset test would be if customers said, if Cell C no longer exists, a hole in the ground scenario, what would they miss? And if we can answer those questions and say we would fundamentally miss the way they helped us, kids studying or education or entertainment or whatever it may be, that we would fundamentally be missed, then I think we would have done a good job, and obviously the financial results would be there.
I've been speaking to Jorge Mendes, the CEO of Cell C, here on the Executive Exchange on Moneyweb TV.